In this video, we're going to take our first steps into creating voxel terrain. Voxel terrain is one of the really cool features of CryEngine that allows you to do things like overhangs, land bridges, caves, and we're going to start out by creating a land bridge between two of our mountains here. So if you remember, we created our little walk-up over here on this one, and we created our flat space up here, but we can't get to this. And that's because I intended to create a land bridge here the whole time. So the first thing we need to do is to set up for voxel terrain. Now, voxel terrain can be kind of tricky. I don't just highly recommend playing with it in a test level before you play with it here. I all but demand it. Play around with it. Sometimes it goes just slicker than snot, and sometimes it gives you nothing but problems. But we're going to get set up for it here. We're going to start by hitting our tilde key, which will bring up our console. Down in the corner, we're going to choose our search function, and we're going to search E_terrain, and up by the top we'll have E_terrain boxes, and it's currently at 0. We're going to click on that and set it to 1. And you can see what happens is all of the boxes that make up our terrain are showing up in our viewport. So the next thing we're going to do to make life easier is we're going to go up to our grid, and we're going to bring that to 64, which is the size of our terrain boxes. And then we're going to come over to our roll-up, and we're going to go to miscellaneous under our objects tab, and we're going to go down to voxel object. We're going to click that and drag it in. And you can see that hanging out right here in front of us. Now this is a pretty hefty size voxel object, and that's good. Switch over to our move tool. We're going to bring this over, and we're going to make sure basically that this pink outline box, we could probably scale that down a little bit, is where we want it to be between our two mountaintops. Alright, and this can take a little bit of fiddling around. So you can see we got plenty on this side. And I'm going to create another one over here later, so I'm trying to avoid overlapping those. And we need to be really cognizant of where we put this. So we're pretty good over here. Looks like if we stay in here, we're pretty good. I think I will size that up just a hair. Dropping down to the bottom just fine, further than we need it to. Alright, so we're over there good. We're over here pretty good. We should be fine. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so we have that in place. We're going to come over here to our roll down, and we want to link to terrain, and we want to compute AO. Ambient Compute AO is just going to make the ambient occlusion look a little bit better once we get everything set up and rolling here. The next thing we're going to do is go up here to File, and we're going to generate surface texture. Defaults I have are fine, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then we're going to come over to Terrain, and we're going to go down to Voxel Painter, and it'll default to Hard Create. We're going to want Soft Create. We've got a brush size of about 2, which is really tiny, and excuse me, it may be difficult to show up on the video, but you can see like a bluish haze. It's a very, very tiny size thing. We'll pop that up around 12, and now you can see it's kind of hefty. 12 may end up being a little bit too big. We have a voxel size of 8. That's fine. If you have a bigger terrain, you're probably going to want that to be 16. And then we have a number of surface types here. I'm going to go ahead and pick Materials, Terrain, Cliff, and then we're going to move in to where we're at. We'll adjust that size down a little bit. That's pretty good. And I think actually even on this size terrain, our voxel size got bumped down to 4. That's no good. Let's go up to 16. And we'll start to pull her out. You can see that can start to pull out pretty quickly on you. And we'll just keep pulling this out. And I know about where I want to be over here. So we're going to pull towards that. And stop every once in a while and just get a different view, see how you're doing. See, we're starting to go up a little bit more than I'd like. So I'm going to pull that down a little. Keep working that forward. And we're going to do that until it pushes right into the terrain. Over here now you can see this hole that's been created. That's because I'm starting to hit the edge of the voxel box that I created. So we're going to soft subtract, take that back out, go up, have a look at where we're going, and certainly we want to be more over here. So we'll go back to Soft Create now, and we'll pull this way. And then we can do a little touch up. Get that a little more evened out. And our bridge is very log-like, so we'll expand some of this down here. Continue to pull all this out. Make all this a little bit bigger. Now it can certainly take a good chunk of time to really get this looking the way you want. And make sure you take that time. And we'll just keep pulling some of this down here. And you'll notice kind of when you get going on a spot, the longer you're going there, the more it'll kind of take off on you. So be very cognizant of that. Just keep working this out until we're getting a relatively natural feel to it. Now that looks a little bit more like a natural land bridge. But we've got a little bit of work to do yet. So now we're going to go to soft subtract. And we'll take that. Yeah, we'll try. Let's take it down around 4. And you can start to shape bits and pieces of this. Go up top here. We'll start to flatten that. Keep moving around. Getting a good look at it. And just keep shaping that. Now, as you're doing that, if we come back over, look at our voxel terrain, if we roll down, we'll see this split into 8 smaller parts. Now, you can do this, and essentially what you're going to do is make the polygons of the voxel smaller so that you can edit detail better. However, bear in mind that this voxel object you created, once you split that, has become just 8 times more memory intensive for the engine to render. So I'm not a big fan of doing that unless you just really can't work it into shape. So we'll just keep working here. So I think we can make this respectable. Anyway, you're starting to get the idea what we're trying to create here. We can come in, push some bits in. And even if it's kind of the shape I like to work these edges a little bit, just to try and get a little bit better blend. Which you're not always going to be able to get. But you can play with it nonetheless. And just keep working and working and working, little bits at a time. It's looking pretty reasonable. I'm not too unhappy with that. However, the color is a little bit off. So we went down and we selected our material earlier so that it would pull that material out from the cliff side as we created it. But we can work with that. So we can come up here to material, bring our brush size, somewhere for this 4, depends on what size of terrain you've made. And we can come down and we can choose some different materials. So we've got cliff selected. Bring that up a little bit more. Not that much more. And then we can come in choose some other ones. Grass. Bring that mesh, or bring that brush size down. And we can paint that in. Go back to cliff if we want. Touch that up a bit. Just a few clicks here and there to break that up. Make it look not quite so painted. If you want, you can even bring that brush down some more. Very small. To really break up that texture. And that's an especially good idea when you have areas like over here where it's a little bit rough on its connection. We can do some other things for that later. But you might want to come in and just touch that up a little bit. And so now we've created our land bridge. That's looking pretty darn good. We can go back into our tilde key and we can search our terrain. Switch that back to 0. Get rid of all those blue lines. And now when we go down, go in and game test. And not too bad. We'll probably go in and touch some of this up with some static meshes, make it look a little bit better. But looks pretty good. Alright, that will do it for our introduction to voxel terrain. We will pick up voxel terrain later where we will do the opposite of this and create a cave. But for now, I think that's a good start.